Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be starting the work on, that's right, the F-150. Today we're going to be doing a little diagnosing. I plugged the jumper pack up and all we got were clicks out of the starter. So first things first, let's make sure that the engine is not seized up. So I'm going to put a socket on the end of one of these pulleys and see if I can't turn it, the drive pulley, which I believe is the one all the way at the bottom there. I haven't even looked into anything, so we're going to do that, see if we can't turn it, and then we're going to disconnect this battery because she is dead as a doornail, and hook the leads up to the booster pack without the battery, because I'm not sure if the battery is draining some of the power from the jump, and see if we can't get this thing to kind of crank, because my expectation is, because when I turn the key I don't hear a fuel pump, my expectation is that it will not fire because it's not getting any fuel. So with that being said, let's see if we can't turn it, then we'll try this the battery thing, and then from there we will have to start looking into some other stuff, but that's where I'm going to start. So let's get to it. Alright guys, I didn't show it, but I was able to with a breaker bar. I did it a couple times to get full revolution on the cam, so we should be good to go there. The engine is not seized, we got full rotation, and I don't know if you can see, but down this pulley right there, the tip of my finger is the drive camshaft drive pulley. So there's a nut on the inside of that, so you just got to get the right length to stick out to get your breaker bar on, and try to turn it. So I went both ways, and we were freed up, we're good to go. She shouldn't be, she's not seized up. That shouldn't be, it's not seized up. So next we're going to get these battery terminals off, and we will hook our jumper pack straight up to those leads and see if we can't get this thing to at least crank over. And then if that doesn't work, what we're going to do is we're going to find our starter and bypass the starter solenoid. We're going to bypass the starter solenoid to see if the starter's any good, basically. Not 100% sure where that is. I haven't really done any poking around, but I imagine it's down there somewhere. Follow my leads here. So let's see, hook this up, try to turn it over. If we don't get anything, we'll bypass it, and I'll show you guys how to do that. Alright guys, so I don't know if you heard it, but that was the same click as yesterday. So this is not, the battery didn't make a difference. So next we're going to crawl underneath. I'm going to try to jump, or I guess bypass, the starter solenoid. Alternator. Going to bypass the starter solenoid, and then we will give it another shot. So let me start doing that, and then I'll show you what I've done when I get ready. Alright guys, so we've diagnosed the first issue here. Battery is dead, but more importantly here, our battery terminal is no good. It just is getting a crappy connection, so that's first on the list of things to get replaced. So what I've done is where that battery cable connects is where I've attached my cable, and then I will show you guys real quick that we at least get it turns over so that you guys can see that we are actually getting power. Ready? So basically, there you go. Next is we are getting. Next is to when we got this, he was told that the fuel system there was corrosion in the tank and it's probably clogged the whole system. So we need to next. I want to jump into the fuel system. That's going to consist of dropping the tanks. Our tank, because I think we're only going to do one. It does have 2 tanks, by the way, but we're going to drop 1 tank and basically start there and work our way back up. I'm not sure. I think this has a mechanical fuel pump. Maybe that. I'm not sure. I don't really know these that well, but it's going to be a learning process. But we do have, it does turn over, so that's a step in the right direction. That's all we were going to get accomplished today. So with that being said, I will catch you guys tomorrow. Alright guys, so I did a little bit of work off camera, because let's be honest, doing wiring is not fun. Kind of like volleyball. Fun to play, not fun to watch, but except for the difference with wiring is it's not fun to do it either. Nor is it fun to watch. So I'll just explain to you what I've found. So we've got a switch here. You can't see, but right here is the switch. You can kind of see with that light. This is the switch for the front and rear fuel tanks. You can switch back and forth. We tested everything from there, and the switch is good. Then we tested the relay, which is right here. This fits in under this box. You can see here. It's the fuel pump relay, because when we actuate the key, we're not getting any. We're not hearing the fuel pump, or I guess either fuel pump, because there's one in each tank. So next we need to follow our wiring back to the fuel pumps, which I believe there's an external, I'm going to call it a pump for lack of a better term. I think it's on the opposite side in between the tanks, and there's another inside of each tank. So we may have to drop the tanks and check to see if they're getting power, and figure out where our issue is, whether it's power not getting to the fuel pumps or the fuel pumps being bad or clogged or whatever the case may be. That's next. So with that being said, let's hop on underneath. We'll see if we can't find that external one and test the connection to it, and then from there we'll drop the tanks and see what we're dealing with there. So with that being said, let's hop underneath and see what we can find. Alright guys, so we got the front fuel tanks lowered. Using my jack here. Let's see if we can't get you up here. So what I'm gonna do is get you up here. I am going to basically take this connection that comes from the body, and I'm going to test it to see. Sorry for the quality. I'm kind of holding the microphone, but I'm going to test it to see if we're getting power to here, and then if that's the case that we're getting power to here, then it is for sure the fuel pump. So I'm going to take a multimeter, I'm gonna plug up a booster pack, turn the key, and then I'm gonna come down here and test to see if we're getting power to any of these. And if we are getting power, that means we got a bad fuel pump. So with that being said, let's test that and see what we get. Alright guys, so we did check the voltage of it. I'm just going to show you what the screen looks like because I don't have enough hands to be able to do it and show you. But we were getting about the same voltage at the plug of the harness for the vehicle as we were at the switch, the front and rear switch to go between the front and rear tank. So we're getting about the same voltage at the plug, a little bit less, as we were here, which is perfect, which means that everything up until that plug is good, which tells me that we have bad fuel pumps. So we're going to replace those. No option there. We should be able to replace those, and based on what we found, everything from there should be good. I'm on the front tank. Next, I'm going to go to the rear tank and see. I did leave it down because those things are putting it back up there. We got to change the fuel pump, and it's on top. The rear tank is next. Should be pretty straightforward. Couple bolts to take it down here. Couple bolts, and it should not be too bad. The hard part will be getting my jack up high enough to kind of use my jack to pull it down. I think it is pretty empty, but we will see. It's just 4 of these guys here. One there, one here, one there, one there. The other one actually used straps. You can see them. I don't know if you can see them, but they're dangling underneath. It was just one bolt on the interior side of the tank. You kind of got a weasel between the exhaust, the edge of the tank, and the drive shaft to get to that one, but that's not too bad. As you can see, I've got extensions on extensions to make it easy to reach. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drop this and see if we can't get easy access to the fuel pump within this tank, which will be up top again, and we'll test that just like we did the other one and see what we can't find. Alright guys, so I've got both of my braces off. You probably can't see. One is over there on the other side of the jack, and one is right here. The only thing you're going to want to remember to do is, of course, take out the filler neck. I did not take it out on the front because I think I can get the fuel pump replaced on that one without taking that apart. The rear one, however, I'm definitely going to have to take apart. Not a big problem, but it's got to be done. So let's get that taken apart, and then we will do the same thing we did for the front one. Drop it down. It looks like this one we're going to be able to drop much lower, which would be good. We'll be able to reach a bunch more stuff, and I won't have to kind of finagle my way in to test. Should be a little easier. And that should probably do it for the diagnosis of this. I'm guessing it's the same thing, but we'll see. Alright guys, so we got this rear tank out, and now it's time to check the voltage on this guy. Hopefully we get nothing, or we get voltage so that we can just replace the fuel pumps, and hopefully that's it. That would make this job much easier than continuing to diagnose. Almost dropped. Continue when we are essentially at the end here. Let's set this off so you can see the sky. See that or not? Here's that. Alright, now let's check. Let's see here. Black ground. This dirt. There you go. You see we're getting almost 8 volts on that one. This one should be a little less. Almost 7 volts on that one. And then we got another limit switch there. So we're getting connection there as well. Which tells me that we got 2 bad fuel pumps. Which, it's crazy that they would both go out at the same time, but that's the way it goes sometimes. It's so sweet. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for this one. It looks to be that we've diagnosed both of them as having fuel pump issues, which I'm not honestly surprised because it's been sitting for a couple of years. So I'm guessing they had an issue with a fuel pump. They said they had some other issues, but they had gotten them fixed, which it looks like there were wiring issues, they said. But it looks like they've gotten those fixed because we're getting consistent voltage throughout. So, just disconnected my battery here. So it looks like we're getting consistent voltage. So what we're going to end up doing here probably is replacing one of the fuel pumps. See how it works, and then if that's the case and we want to go ahead, we can do the second one, or we can just put it up and use one tank, whatever the case may be, whatever he wants, because like I said, it is my father's and not mine. So with that being said, that's going to do it for this one. Please, if you like what you see, hit the like button, subscribe, and we will be definitely seeing more of this videos. We'll get that at least one of the fuel pumps replaced, and see if we can't get it to fire up, because I have yet to hear this thing run. We don't know if we've got any other issues, so let's get it running and see where we're at. Thank you guys for watching. Alright guys, so I talked to my father and we got looking into this fuse box, and what we found was that this fuse, we just threw a 15 ampere in to see what we could get. This fuse is getting 12 volts, this 15 that my thumb is on right here. But there's only one pin inside of the fuse box, so this 12 volts is going nowhere essentially. So we got to do a little research into that and figure out what exactly is going on. So we're going to do a little bit of research, and we will get back to you. Well, for you guys it'll be a couple seconds, but for me it'll be a day or two. So with that being said, I will catch you guys in a few seconds. Alright guys, so it has been several days since we started troubleshooting this fuel system. So basically I was getting a lot of mixed results on a lot of my tests, so I basically scratched the whole thing and started over. Starting with the EEC, basically the computer. First thing you want to test is make sure that your computer is signaling the fuse to activate, which is this green plug here. Here's the fuse for it. Basically what you want to test is your power for the high voltage system and your power for the low voltage system. And then when that we tested that and we got 12 volts on both, which is good. Or 12 volts and I believe it was 8 volts, which should be good. And then we tested signal. In order to test signal, what you're going to do is you're going to run a jumper wire from, it's pin 3 and 4 in here. I don't remember exactly what it is. I think pin 3 and would be a signal and a power. Basically you run a jump in there to, essentially what that does is eliminate the fuse in the system. You just bypass it. And the way to check that that's one of your issues is to test your voltage at the fuel pump on the harness side. So we jumped it and we test our fuel pumps both front and back, and we knew that we were getting power to at least the plug. So basically the harness side of the fuel pump plug, or sending unit, however you want to call it. And we were getting it on both the front and the back. So that tells me that our wiring is sound, and that we have an issue with our fuse, because when we jumped it we were getting 12 volts in the back. Without it jumped we were getting, I think, 7 volts in the back. So we've basically said that this fuse, or this relay, is no good, so we need to get a new relay. I'm going to go to the junkyard and see if I can't find some of those relays. And then on top of that, when you're testing, you want to make sure that you have a solid ground. So you can either run it back to the negative on your battery or find a ground on the motor engine block. But I used this, basically the emergency brake mount is what I used in here to ground everything. And I was testing all my grounds from there because I knew that I was getting a good ground there. So without a good ground, you're going to see voltages that are all over the place, and I was seeing a lot lower voltages when I was trying to ground it elsewhere. So that I ran wire from my tester to that ground and kept going back to that ground every time because we needed a solid ground, and I knew that was one of them. So that leads us to our second problem. It looks like both fuel pumps are bad because we're not getting essentially we're not getting any power or any result of the power reaching the fuel pump. We're not getting anything out of the fuel pump. No nothing, no movement. So we're going to replace one of them for now because it is a dual tank. And here we go. Basically what we got here is a brand new fuel pump for the rear tank from Rock Auto, and we also got ourselves a new fuel filter. So yeah, as far as troubleshooting, we I think have all of our issues found. Our computer was good, we tested it. Our relay was no good, we tested that out and jumped it. The only other link that we didn't talk about is down in here. I'll grab my flashlight here, my phone. The only thing we didn't talk about was this little switch right here, and it's basically the inertia switch. So if the car's in an accident, it flips that switch and pretty much makes it so the car will not start. The one that was originally in this truck, when I took it out and shook it, it was just a bunch of loose parts in there. So I went and grabbed this one from the junkyard, plugged right in. It sounds like everything is sound, and now we're getting for sure signal back to the pumps, so we're good there as well. And then of course we tested our pumps, and I did hook up my jumper box to both of the pumps, trying to get them to see if they're good. Just run some power straight to them to see if they'll function, and we got nothing out of either of the pumps. So that means, based on all of our testing, that we have a bad relay and bad pumps. Yeah, so the only other thing I think as far as troubleshooting that there is to talk about is looking in to see if our tanks are any good. Oh, I also took the fuel filter out, and on the engine side, not the tank side, because it will flow in one direction. So I took off the engine side to see if it would actually flow from whatever was left in the lines. And when I took it off, it came out fine. But because it's such a cheap part, we're just going to replace it anyway. And then the last thing is the tank. So let me open up the back tank first and show you the inside, and then I'll open up the front tank and show you what's inside that one. It's pretty nasty. Alright guys, so this is what the inside of a tank is supposed to look like. Nice and clean. The gas looks nice and clean. What it's not supposed to look like is what is inside of this front tank. It is so dirty you can't even see it. Try not to drop my GoPro in there. So, better image of the back wall. Look at all the scaling and such on the back wall. It is like this even under the fluid, and it smells so funny. They haven't used this gas in 15 years. So, with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to replace everything in the rear tank just to get it going, because they are standalone systems. And then as far as that goes, we should be all set to drain this tank. We're going to put, I'm not sure yet, maybe some kerosene inside of there, because if we can get it, when we get it running with that tank, it's going to be driven out of here, and my dad is taking it to New York. So with that being said, the kerosene should help loosen up some of that stuff, because he wants to try to save it, which is not a big deal. You can save those pretty easily. So yeah, that's basically going to do it for this upload. That's troubleshooting so far. If we run into anything else, I will for sure share it with you guys. That's how you troubleshoot the fuel system in a 1990 or 8th gen, I guess, is what I've found, Ford F-150. So if you like what you see, please like, share, subscribe, and if you want some more detail, please leave it in the comments. I can definitely show you exactly which connectors and whatnot that we use to test powers and so forth. So please leave a comment below if you want to see that. But that being said, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.